Oh hey, this is Matt Fetcher from AudioKit. Let's get started.
What is up, App Music Nation? Today I have an interview with...
The drums should just smack immediately. Like, we want to take the guesswork out of a lot of the sound design aspect of what you're trying to do.
MSXII. These guys are one of the top sound designers in the industry. They design official sounds for Ableton, Native Instruments. Their samples have been used on platinum hits and even in Super Bowl commercials and everything in between. Their iOS apps and sounds are even used by kids.
This interview just gets better and better, so we better get started. Let's dive in with the first question.
That's incredible, man.
Really popular sound design company. What inspired you to build apps?
The need to be able to produce on the go, the need to be able to have tools that like mimic what I do on the desktop, I think was the inspiration. Beatmaker 3 and what the guys over there at Intuit were doing was a big part of that. When I first saw Beatmaker 3, I downloaded it. It reminded me a lot of Machine, which, you know, we're heavy Machine users, and the workflow I felt like was very similar. I felt like a lot of the things that I like on desktop were actually now on the mobile platform. So that kind of sparked a lot of it. Conversations with my guy Henny, conversations with my brother Jay Myrax, a lot of people that were like really pioneering in our niche, really pioneering some different things on the mobile side. A lot of that, I think it was just a culmination of all of those different things. And then from there, it was just like, well, shoot, let's just bring some tools to this side, you know, to kind of make things easier as we transition. Everything kind of took off from there.
Wow, yeah, and fly tape and low fly dirt, they're essential.
We're starting to see mainstream producers like Henny the Business use iOS. Is iOS music production ready for the mainstream?
Personally, I think we're still a few years away. I think, like, you know, what you guys are doing at AudioKit, some really great developers out there, you know, guys doing some really, really good stuff that will push this thing forward. But I think from a consumer standpoint, I don't know if 100% of the consumer base understands its viability right now. Desktop is still very powerful, you know, but I liken it into years ago whenever we saw the trend coming from hardware to software. And right in there at the beginning, it was like, you can't produce just as well as you do on hardware, on software, you know, and then slowly now look at studios, you know what I mean? A lot of studios are scaled back. We don't have huge desks, you know, the need to go into a big studio, spend a bunch of money is kind of eradicated at this point as well. So I still think we're like maybe a couple of years away, 2 or 3 years away. A lot of that obviously has to depend on, you know, it depends on what Apple is going to do, the horsepower up under the machines and stuff like that. But it's getting pretty close, man. It's getting pretty close.
It seems like people are kind of almost there. Like,
yeah,
guys
absolutely.
Like Henny and you producing major stuff.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And it's great, man. It just, you know, a lot of times we look for devices and machines to kind of do the things for us instead of taking the limitations for what they are and making them work for ourselves. Once we kind of get our head wrapped around that, you use the tools for what they are and make the tools do what you want them to do and not expect the tools to do that for you. I think a lot more people will come on board.
Exactly. And
I know you understand that one. So.
Well, you know, it's interesting to hear you say a couple years away. I mean, what do you think is the biggest friction? What's it going to take for people to finally dive in and say, this is legit?
Man, sadly, people need something to follow and to be associated with. That's the nature of what we are living in right now, you know. It'll take a few big key players, you know. Like, I saw the reaction when a lot of people started really finding out Just Blaze was, you know, even dabbling in mobile production. It's like now people consider that it's a great option for my music production. It wasn't good enough until I saw Just Blaze, you know what I mean? That's kind of the era that we live in. But man, there are countless stories out there like that. You know, there are countless stories out there like that. But I think what's more apparent is the everyday user. You know, if you jump online and look at mobile beat hashtags or iOS gang or any type of hashtags on Instagram, man, you'll see thousands of people that have been on this wave. You know, and to me, that would speak more volumes than just the 1, 2, or 3 big players out here, you know, saying they did quote unquote soul record, you know, on the iPad or on the iPhone.
Yeah, it's really incredible to see on Instagram. I just checked out the Beatmaker 3 hashtag, and it has like 10,000 posts in like the last few months.
Like, You know, and those are guys that are on Beatmaker 3. Guys like had been on Beatmaker 2 and the previous versions before that.
And it seems like the hip hop community in general has embraced iOS at a professional level.
The beat making culture, I think there are quite a few apps that speak to that with the 16 pad paradigm. You know, if you come from an MPC background, which has been around for many, many years, it's like, oh, I see an app with 16 pads, like automatically some things click for me. You know what I mean? So maybe that's the reason. A lot of us are sample-based producers. So I know that also has a lot to do with it. You know, there are a lot of apps out here that allow you to sample and tweak samples and then play the sample back and pitch it and stretch it and do those types of things. So those apps are kind of catered towards this market. Actually, we did a bunch of stuff that's actually in the stock version of Ableton Live 10 alongside Ableton and a bunch of other really, really dope sound designers. But then also we did one of the packs that ship with that as well, which is called Beat Tools.
Yo, check out this pack.
That's very cool. Guys like you are making stuff for iOS that gives it the validity where like, hey, these are the tools that everyone's using. And now you're not only making those sounds available, but the apps.
Absolutely, man. To be honest, Matt, like my position in all of this is that when things do transition, when my studio scales back, when I decide that, you know, life is just too busy and I can't really be in the studio like I want to, I want to have the tools that I need on the go. Point blank, period. So anything that you see us put out, we first believe in. Anything that you see us put out, we first believe in, we find it useful. And, you know, we pray and hope that you guys find it useful as well. But we know, like, in our use case, it makes sense.
Yeah, that's the right attitude. You know, use the things that you want, and then everyone's going to love it too.
Right. You know, and I've always just, myself, I'm just solutions based. You know, it's like, it's one thing to complain about the tools. It's one thing to complain about the lack of things that we have to get things done and get work done. It's another thing to actually just kind of be about it, you know, do the research, figure it out. If you don't know how, hire somebody. If you don't know how, take some time to learn, you know. So that's really what we try to do, man. We try to be solutions based, try to meet the needs of the people, of ourselves, you know, and just carry on and press on from there.
That's incredible advice. And so many people are afraid to make that leap. So let's talk about that. I mean, because that takes a lot of courage you're at your top of your game in sound design, and then you're getting into something that's, you know, really challenging, which is software development. What are some of the challenges you faced along the way?
Oh man, like where do I start? You know, it's like, you know, for me personally, I went down at the time when I was working a few years back. I went down to part-time in my job and started studying code. You know, just took a few months to just kind of get my head wrapped around, you know, code. You know what I mean? And I looked into everything, Swift and Juice and everything, and just wanted to just know what I was going to get myself into. I always kind of felt like I personally didn't have the time, just with everything else that we have going on, to be the guy actually trying to code, to be the guy actually trying to, you know, get my hands dirty in that. But I want to know enough to be able to speak to the ideas in my head, the ideas that my team wanted to implement, you know, and just be able to say, hey, here's what we want to do. And then at the end of the day, not be overcharged for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that challenge number one. Two, you know, familiarizing ourselves with the platform. As you know, everything changes every day with Apple, man. And it's like, you know, you think you got something really, really dope and something really good, and then next thing you know, boom, something happens and they change, and now you have to adjust. And like those are real challenges, man. And I think that some of those things were just bumps in the road. Some of those things are part of it. But all in all, man, I think it's been a huge blessing to be able to like overcome those hurdles, you know, drive over those speed bumps, and to get here to where we are currently now, just, you know, just 2 apps shipped and, you know, a couple of more on deck. So it's been worth it, to say the least.
Well, that's inspiring. I mean, I've only shipped 2 apps in the last year too, and I haven't done half the stuff you've done.
Well, no, we haven't shipped as many apps as you have. Your apps are incredible, man. Like very, very complex stuff you're doing over there that, you know, also is open source. And you guys doing some beautiful things. So I wouldn't even try to compare those. Those are apple to oranges, man.
That's very nice of you to say, but your apps are just as useful.
Let's talk about those MSX audio apps for a second. I asked MSimp to describe his apps in his own words and his inspiration.
Lo-Fi Dirt, which was our first app, the inspiration for that, man, is like huge, like sample-based producers. We make a lot of original material, and then, you know, when we get into our production as music producers, we like to just resample that material. A lot of times the tools that we'll use are things that will degrade the audio's quality. And that's essentially what the inspiration for Lo-Fi Dirt is. It's an audio quality degrader.
For people who don't have an ASR10 on hand to
Yeah.
resample.
If you come from the school of like the ASRs, the MPCs, we have things that are modeled, you know, like if you ever had any type of like inspiration from Nintendo sounds and the crunchiness of like 8-bit, there's a mode in there for that. There's a mode that has just a filter, you know, and it's like, we wanted some things that we could just run audio to it, turn a knob, and have it affected very, very easily, adjust the in and outputs. The drums should just smack immediately. Like, we want to take the guesswork out of a lot of the sound design aspect of what you're trying to do. So that's why, you know, I see a lot of comments like, oh, we need more controls, more flexibility. Well, you know, the entire point of Lo-Fi Dirt is so that if I'm not versed in sound design, I can put this on it and it works.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So, I mean, that's really the inspiration behind that. With Fly Tape is just more of a performance. Let's have fun, jack around with the audio. You know, if my DAW or host will allow me to record it, I'll record it. It's fully MIDI capable and things like that. But yeah, man, Fly Tape for some reason, I feel like is the one that a lot of people gravitate towards more because it's more on the performance side, and we're starting to see the blurred lines between the producer and the DJ, and Fly Tape's a lot of fun. And that's really what that was, man. Just it's not meant to be like sounding like cassette. I've seen that comment as well. It's not meant to sound like a cassette. It looks like a cassette, but the idea behind it is just to have fun. It's a performance device. It's got few modes. If you double tap some of the buttons down there at the bottom, it's got like a little bit of pitch wobble, and it's got like a hiss and noise, but it does some really, really cool things that we put in our music. Again, back to solutions based. These are things that we do on the desktop side. If you listen to like a lot of our demos, you'll hear the tape stop effect and stuff like that. So that's really what Fly Tape is all about.
Yeah, and tape stops lend themselves to, you know, you would think the touch screen a lot better than they would the desktop.
And that's exactly why we wanted to put it in there. You know, you can just touch it and then it does it, let it go, and it comes off. You know what I mean? So we think it's really, really cool. We've had a blast with that one for sure.
Man, yeah, I love that about your apps. Is like, you know, at AudioKit, like sound designers contact us like weekly, and they all want exactly the same thing, just some sort of generic sample player. But you guys have these great ideas, and then you execute them, and they're freaking fantastic. And the
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's definitely not as easy as you're trying to make it sound. You know, a lot of planning. You know, Fly Tape is about 8 months of work. You know, from planning to, you know, getting a version that you guys see initially. Lo-Fi Dirt, same thing, 6 to 8 months. And, you know, this is primarily because it's between everything else that we have going on. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not like, oh, you scheme up an idea and then 2 weeks later, like the app can ship. You know, sometimes they take a little while, you know, and then the cost, you know, it costs to kind of get things up and going. It costs to market it, you know, and it's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it, man.
Yeah, for those watching, you know, sometimes I'm kind of rah-rah on Twitter and Instagram that, you know, making apps is easy, but it's a struggle. You know, I've been a developer for 20 years, and every day I face palm and think I can't go on, because audio programming is really freaking hard, and, you know, all independent developers deserve your support, especially at the iOS level.
I couldn't agree with that more. Like, you know, one thing that I firmly believe is the more people that get into this space, the more viable it becomes for all producers, you know? So you'll never see us like bashing anybody for any reason, but you'll never really ever see us putting down somebody's app or even comparatively trying to put our apps over someone else's. Like, I think all apps are needed because they're useful for someone, you know, for somebody to take their time to develop an app, to put it out there into the world. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of grit. Again, you still have to overcome quite a few obstacles, and then to ship it's already been perfected in a use case for at least one person, which was the developer. So I think everybody should have their hats off to anybody taking the time to ship an app so that we have more tools in this space.
Absolutely. And for those watching, no one is getting rich making apps. I mean, we all do it because we love it.
Oh man, I've seen that comment too, man. It's like early on when low fly dirt shipped, I saw some things out that were, this looks like a money grab, and they just grabbed stock code sitting around online and put some things together, and it's like, money grab, man. Like, who's making you know what I mean? So yeah, it just, and it just rolls off my shoulder, man. It is what it is, but it's like, yeah, absolutely, man. If you really look at the margins when it comes to the iOS store, hopefully those things will change in the future as we have better tools and more horsepower and things like that. But yeah, man, it's the margins on that to even consider iOS being a money grab is crazy. I think any developer would tell you that.
We're all in this together. We're all a community. Most iOS developers, we're all friends. So there's no competition for those watching. So there's no battle lines here. I'll go online and promote someone else's synthesizer.
For sure, man. Absolutely.
Oh, so you're working on a new app. Can you divulge anything for the audience about the inspiration or where you're going?
Yeah, so we're working on two. One will ship much sooner than the other.
Oh, we're talking this spring, this summer? Well, software.
Yeah, looking. Yeah, right now, I think I would say maybe a late Q2 for the first one. Obviously that's, again, hopefully everything goes well. But we're trying to get a late Q2 launch for the new effect device. It'll be an AUV3. Again, that'll be more closely related to kind of what you've already seen from us. Just something that you can pull up in Beatmaker 3, something you can pull up in AUM. And again, not trying to be all things to all people, but if you want something that just works, like, we're going to provide a solution for you with a specific sound set. You know what I mean? So that one is coming. That one is really, really cool. Look for that one soon. It's also in testing right now. There is one that we all have been developing for quite a while with a lot of people's favorite developer. Well, a lot of people's favorite developer, however you want to put that. But yeah, good friend of ours. We've been working with this gentleman and his squad for a couple of years now at this point, and he's a good friend at this point, and so we partnered together to build something that will be, I'll just say, very beautiful for the community, especially if you are a sound design / beat maker / producer / I love to use my iPad for everything. I think it'll be beautiful for you. Yeah, I'm trying to.
I don't know if it can be any more vague.
Yeah. I'm trying to say as much as I can without going too far. I mean, just because, I don't want to jinx anything for sure. But yeah, man, it's really cool. Some really cool guys on the beta squad. People like Beatmakers a squad, Mike Check, Jacob Hack is on board. My guy Sounds and Gear. Quite a few people already, on the testing right now. So yeah, it's trucking away, man. We're trucking away at it.
It's exciting stuff. So
absolutely, man.
Do you think you're gonna eventually move to desktop VSTs?
That is, it's in the plans. It definitely is in the plans. I think the idea of pirating is something I'm not a fan of. So that, to be honest, everybody that's asked about, like, where's the fly tape VST and, where's the fly tape or the low fly dirt VST? It's, it's more about protecting our investment, as best we can. I think anything in the digital space can be taken advantage of, but at this point, man, iOS is the move primarily because of, us being able to protect our stuff, and we can provide it to you at a low cost. There's really no point in not being able to just download GarageBand on your iPhone and download every developer's app for less than $10. App Store and support, 50 people. So right now, those are some things that we're kind of weighing, we're kind of looking at, but I think the idea of pirating our apps is not something that we're super, eager to get into.
Yeah, it's developers are hurting.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. I think until people actually, I see this trend a lot in the sound design community. A lot of guys come from an era of like pirating or sharing people's kits or, you know, different things like that. And then they turn around and become sound designers themselves. And I see them online saying, hey man, please support, man, you know, don't download my stuff, you know, we'll give you a coupon. And it's like, once you get out into this space and you realize how vulnerable your work is and your art and things that you care about are being taken advantage of, your mindset shifts.
People aren't, you know, driving Teslas. You know, I drive a Honda Civic, you know, so.
I drive an Accord, man. A lot of times, like, if people understood the heart and the mindset of developers, you know, I think that's one thing that sometimes, and I know myself, I'm a bit more introverted and I bury myself into my work. So like, you may not see me as vocal. You may not even see my company as vocal when it comes to like being on camera and really speaking our mind about this, that, and the third. We're solely focused on what we're trying to do and the impact and the legacy that will leave, that it doesn't leave a lot of time to actually get the mind and the heart of the developer. But a lot of the developers that I know, a lot of the people that I know that are actually contributing positive things to this industry are great individuals. They are great individuals, you know, guys like yourself and everybody else out here putting out things that are like really for the community, man. And, you know, to hear about people taking advantage of their work and not wanting to support, it's a shame, man. You know, it's a crying shame.
All right, well, let's get back to some positive stuff.
Absolutely, man.
You know, as a sound designer, you have a lot of tricks that you put into your own sounds. Do you have any actionable advice for people out there looking to make their iPad mixes sound better?
You know, that has to do a lot with your listening environment. One thing that I will recommend, and, you know, I'm not being paid or anything to say this, but what I will recommend is like a good low-cost alternative for studio monitors are the iLouds from IK Multimedia. Those things, man, like you can create a great listening environment in those in a very small space. Like, so I think that's a good start. And then, you know, just being able to take what you're hearing in your head and find the tools that exist on the App Store and implement those, you know, and that's no matter what DAW you're in. If you're in Cubasis or Beatmaker 3 or AUM, or no matter what you're using, research the tools. Like there's a ton of stuff out there, you know, there's a ton of stuff out there that can enhance the sound that you're looking for, create the sound that you're looking for. So I think my advice would be to first is kind of, you know, the same way we scour plugin sites, get on the App Store and just see what's available.
Right. And they say the best DAW is the one that you know how to use.
Absolutely, man. It's the one you spend the most time with and you know like the back of your hand.
Yeah. So, I mean, just because you see Just Blaze using Beatmaker 3, you know, Cubasis is your jam, you know, learn how to use everything about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree with that.
Is there anything you wish you could go back and tell yourself 2 years ago before you started making apps, like some advice, lessons learned?
Study more, like be more versed in iOS. 2 years ago, you know, that's a long time, you know, and there's a lot of things that have happened since then. But for me, I probably would have done a better job of listening to the community. The community is telling us things all the time, but a lot of times we're so buried in our work that it's hard to kind of get a gauge on what the community is looking for. But the community, if you're listening, will tell you all the time, I want this, that. I'd spend this much money on it and it needs to behave like this and I'll use it forever. Over a period of time, and then you start to see the complaints about this doesn't do that and this doesn't do that and I wish something was like this, and put all that together and, you know, you have a huge app idea. You know what I mean? So I think probably just doing a better job of just listening to the community.
Interesting you say that. Is that mainly through emails and app reviews, or is that through different channels, like just seeing what people are posting and seeing how their workflow doesn't jive up? Or
Yeah, man. I think it's just a culmination of things. We get quite a bit of support emails around people wanting to get into iOS. So from there, forums, Twitter, Instagram, you know, you name it. You know, I like to, you know, just when I have some downtime, I like to just search hashtags of like mobile music production, iOS beats, you know, and I just see what's going on out here, man. And a lot of guys, even in their posts, will tell you what they're trying to do. Man, I wish this app did this, or I wish I could do this with this audio interface inside of here. And, you know, so sometimes I'll write some things down and just kind of make note of it.
For those watching, MSimp is really active. Like the whole MSXII crew is really active on Instagram, and it just blows me away how popular you guys are and how you will respond to everyone that leaves a comment. Because sometimes you get hundreds of comments on a single post, right?
Sometimes. when Instagram is not an algorithm tripping, sometimes.
And I'm just like, how do you even have time to get anything done when you have everyone coming at you from every angle? And
for me, man, like, you know, if you interact with MSX Sound Design, which, you know, formerly is pronounced MSX Sound Design, if you interact with us on, you know, say Twitter or Instagram, you're essentially talking to me. You know, I man that channel. And so I look at it as, man, like I don't feel any different than anybody else in the production community, right? So it's a conversation. It's a conversation piece when people comment on something that we're promoting, or comment on something that we're showing, or a device we're showing in the studio, or just even sometimes when I'm just posting beats or whatever. You know, if somebody took the time out of their day to say something, or, you know, to encourage us or whatever, it's like, why wouldn't I respond? You know, and I pray that we never get too big headed to where we feel like, you know, we can't respond or even engage with people. You know what I mean? We've always been for the underdog. In fact, I feel like an underdog still. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my mentality.
That's a great attitude. And then speaking of Instagram, do you have any advice for musicians who want to kind of build their online presence there? No, that's a tough question, right?
That's a tough one, man, because the obvious answer is to post more, right? But
Right.
I also believe in quality of life and living in the real world too, you know? So I think my advice for somebody trying to build their following as a musician is, I would say, connect with people in the real world. You know, a lot of people, you know, you'll see this in LA sometimes, you know, a lot of people have quite a few followers, but then, you know, throw a show and can't fill the stadium or can't fill the venue, you know? So
Wow.
I'd say, you know, get out and do shows in your local area, and, you know, do connect shows with other artists in your area and different things like that. And I think your following kind of builds naturally. But I'm a big proponent of quality of life, man. Like I'd never recommend anybody just spend time online all day long. You know, that's the obvious answer to grow your online base. So I'm a little bit different and biased in that arena.
I love your life philosophy. You know, I think I've been watching too many Gary V videos.
Yeah, man.
And seeing someone saying, you know, actually get out and meet people in real life and network, I think that's, you know, the way to success and a healthy life balance. I'm looking forward to the day when I can quit social media.
It's a double-edged sword, man, because you need it to a degree, because, you know, quote unquote, that's where everybody is at. But then also, like, you look up and, like, it really can kill your productivity. You know, it really can hamper your productivity, man. So, like, I try to approach social media with caution, and, you know, there definitely are times where the phone is away and I'm not posting, and I'm not posting if I'm not inspired, or, you know, sometimes we, like, right now, there's 6 different products that I have ready to go that I just don't want to put up because I don't want to be online dealing with it. You know what I mean? And so it's just part of it, man. But I do think that time away from looking down at your phone, looking down at your device is imperative these days, man. It's imperative to, you know, your overall well-being.
Okay, so for your sound packs, people can actually use your desktop sound packs on an iPad and load them in BeatMaker. So
Yeah.
how would they go about doing that?
The majority of your apps that you're going to use, like, we ship everything that we make on MSXaudio.com is shipped in at least a .wav file. Any audio app, any sound design app, any app that you're going to use that supports that, you know, our products will work inside of there.
I say, for those watching, you don't have to, you know, wait for them to make, you know, an in-app purchase bundle and BeatMaker 3. You can actually just go to their website, you know, support them, buy their sounds. 100% of the money goes to them. You know, Apple doesn't take a cut. You can support your sound designers, you know, and that's one of the best things you can do, you know, support actual musicians making sounds for you. You're supporting the whole ecosystem when you buy your sounds.
Absolutely. And a lot of times, you know, most of what we're doing is reinvesting back into things like apps and stuff like that. But yeah, man, like you said, you don't have to wait for the next installment of a, you know, MSX BeatMaker 3 in-app purchase. Everything that we do can easily come into your iOS environment just by import. You know, you have numerous ways to import. You have Dropbox and Audio Share and the Files app on the iPad, the iPhone. Yeah, and from there, just mingle the audio just like you would on desktop. Put it in your favorite sampler, put it in your favorite program, and just get busy. I think the beauty of a lot of what iOS does bring with the in-app purchases is the integration. If I'm in my favorite app, for instance, like let's say I'm in FM Player and you guys decide that you guys want to, run exclusive sound packs by XYZ sound designers. I don't have to leave that platform.
Right.
On desktop, a lot of times you have to download something, it downloads, go to your download location, you pull it up, you bring it back in. Now I've got to bring it back to my DAW, bring it back to my sampler. And it's like 4, 5, 6 steps where a lot of programs on the iOS side allow you to purchase it, boom, 2 clicks and it's available. It's literally available. So it just depends on whatever type of producer you are. I'm not knocking either way. If you're a guy that likes to go the extra mile and import, or if you're a guy that likes to stay in app, like I support it all.
Cool. So there's something for everyone. And
absolutely.
Let's talk about some of your more popular recent packs. I think just today, as we're recording this, you dropped like a new guitar sample pack that sounds amazing. I was listening to it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man. That's with one of our friends, Cloud Chord. He's online. You can check him out at Cloud Chord. He is a phenomenal guitar player, producer extraordinaire, and we linked up to really do some really cool things. So like if you like jazz, soul guitar, lo-fi, funky guitar samples, and we have both acoustic and electric. We just put out a pack today. It's called Strum Soul, and you can download that. And if you want to bring that into your Beatmaker 3 or your Cubase's workflow, feel free. Super cool.
Yeah, subscribe to their mailing list, because it seems like every other week they've got a new sound pack coming out. People don't even know how much stuff they're putting out, and everything I hear, I'm just blown away. Like, how could they maintain this quality like all the time? It's awesome stuff. Did you have any final thoughts for iOS musicians?
Just enjoy it for what it is right now. Personal experiences initially when I came to iOS, I tried to make it be my desktop solution. And I found myself frustrated a lot of times because it wasn't Ableton, or it wasn't Machine, or it wasn't, Logic. I think the game really changed for me when I looked at iOS for what it is. And that's considering everything, the limitations, the adapters, extra cable, everything, buying an iPad that doesn't have a headphone jack. Like, when you consider everything, look at it for what it is and then approach it that way. I think looking at it that way, it'll open a lot of doors and a lot of creativity for you. So I would say, man, just experiment, have fun, and just have some patience with the platform, with developers. Speak to your developers, tell them about what you're looking for, tell them about the things that you like, you don't like, and ultimately, man, just have a blast. Like, life's too short, man. Have a blast with what you're doing, man.
Oh man, that's the best advice I've heard for iOS music.
Absolutely, man.
Well done. Thank you so much for being here today. You've really enlightened us with some great advice.
Thank you so much, man. I do want to, give a shout out to the Audio Kit team. Had a chance to meet you guys here recently in, was that January in LA?
Yeah,
man. You guys are doing some really, really cool things, man. We're going to use the Audio Kit engine on one of our next apps. So not these two, but the one following, we'll be using the Audio Kit engine. And hats off to you guys. And if you guys are not familiar with the Audio Kit guys and the team and the open source tools that they're providing, please get familiar. Please. Like, I think what you guys have done is like really shown that it's viable. You know what I mean? For anybody.
If I can do it, anyone can.
Right. For anybody. So yeah. Hats off to you guys, big salute to you guys. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us, my squad MSX, and we appreciate it.
Wow, that was an honor to interview MSimp. It sounds like they have a lot of stuff brewing. I can't wait to see their next apps, and be sure and follow them at msxaudio.com for all their latest sounds. See you soon.
AudioKit is a free and open source project. You can learn more at audiokitpro.com.